Okay, in this module, we were going to cover building a resume. SP2 has a fantastic tutorial and resume creating tool. And if you start here, there's 29 pages. Only about the first 9, I believe, or 9 or 10, cover actually some basic information on what you're going to need before you actually start it. And then there's a tool, it's kind of a fill-in-the-blank tool as we go along that will assist you and actually producing a resume into a savable format on the end that you can save outside of this class as a PDF, and then you can update at a later time. So there's a short intro there. And it begins to talk about just some of the basic things that you're going to need in a resume. It talks about just basic contact information, emails, some slight tips on ease of reading, what you use to make your resume stand out above and beyond, say, the next person. And here it gives the illustration that depending upon the industry, a person might get 50 to 100 resumes to review, and so something about yours is going to have to stand out that's different than everybody else's. They even talk about using professional email addresses. You may have had your fun junior high or high school email address forever, but it may not be appropriate now that you're a professional. So if you can, go onto Gmail and make something that's fairly inert, that doesn't necessarily speak to whatever your hobby is or something like that. You don't necessarily want that. In your resume, you're going to highlight your skills and your experience, and honestly, this is the time where it's acceptable to brag about yourself. That's what you're supposed to be doing. You're supposed to be highlighting for your potential employer what is it about you that's different than everybody else, why they should hire you over someone else. Now, if you're just getting into the industry, the reality is you may have a lot of classes, you may have a lot of education, you may have a lot of certifications, but you may not have all that much experience. And that's fine. Don't try and candy coat it. Don't make it sound like you have more experience than you do. Just be honest on there. Be thorough, but be honest. If you're new to the industry, the people in the industry, they know that that you're not going to have a lot of industrial experience. You may not have any at all. That's okay. Really, what you want to focus on at that point is the fact that you have maybe a lot of education, a lot of classes that you've taken, many things like that. And then if you get into an interview situation after that resume, you can use that to your advantage. That at least you can highlight that, yes, I can set goals, I can complete goals, and if you put me on a task, I'll do the same thing. I approached my my education with a level of professionalism. I'm going to approach this job with that same level of professionalism. So as you go through, they talk about a few of the other hints, like don't use your nickname. You may not like your given name. Use it on the resume. If you get hired, you can tell them you prefer a different name later, but don't use nicknames. Don't lie about your accomplishments. Information or discuss about pay or benefits and your time off. You want to avoid that in your resume. Unnecessary personal information about yourself, like your social security number, your health, your age, religion, life story, marital status, zodiac sign, political views. Those aren't things you want to talk about in your resume. You do want to talk about your professional experiences, maybe your ability to function properly in high pressure situations, that you're good with working on things that have a time sensitive nature, and quality is an important thing to you. Things of that nature. When it comes down to grammar and the mechanical part of your resume, make sure that you use proper nouns properly. Job titles, don't abbreviate. Make sure that you have spelling and capitalization and proper sentence structure. Never ever use a resume that someone else hasn't proofread. That goes for me as well. I've done this for a living for decades, and if I was going to produce a resume today that I was going to submit to an employer, I would absolutely have one, if not two, different people proofread that for errors. It is very difficult to proofread your own information. You will sometimes skip over things. In your head, you might read it one way, but on paper, it looks something different. So other people's opinions on this matter. In fact, if you finish a resume in this class and you want to submit it to me, uh, well, this assignment you'll be submitting your resume to me, but in addition to that, later on, if you are going to go for a job a year or two down the road, don't hesitate to email me your resume, have me take a look at it. I'd be more than happy to do that. In this particular pane here, page 8 of 29, there's different samples of different types of resumes. If you click on the automotive one, you'll see that it's a one-pager, and that's pretty much what you should be looking for, is to keep it onto one page. If an interviewer rather is reading hundreds of resumes, what they don't want is to look through a book. If you get an interview, that may be time to bring some more pertinent information to the interview, all your certifications. That's where you can embellish and talk a little bit more. What you want to do is get in and out really quick on a resume. You want something that's clear and succinct, paints a good picture of you, but is not incredibly detailed. You don't want people reading hundreds and hundreds of pages, because they're just not going to do that. Large, page-long letters of intent, again, employers, the reality is they're just not going to read those. You're going to spend a lot of time writing them, and they're just not going to read them. So you want to do something that's clear and succinct, quick and to the point, and then you can embellish and talk about the finer points of your attributes as an employee later on if you get an interview. I've been in the automotive industry for 35 years, and I have had a lot of jobs and a lot of experience, but if I was going to produce a resume today, it would be one page. So again, build your resume, use complete sentences, don't abbreviate, be complete, be accurate and appropriate. Proofread your resume and fix any spelling or grammatical mistakes. And remember, if it's a PDF or Word document, it's a living document. You use it all the time. When you get to page 10 of this particular resume building part, you'll see where there's different pages. So in here, literally you put your first name in, your last name, and you go through it, and then you hit save, and it'll build your resume for you. When you're done, you can submit that to me for a grade, and you can move on to the next chapter.